On Wednesday, the CEO of Bear Stearns, BSC on the screen stands for Bear Stearns. On Wednesday, the CEO said, never mind all those problems. Bear Stearns is fine. We have no liquidity problems, lots of money, all that's good. By Thursday, guess what? Investors had taken money out of Bear Stearns. The stock had dropped from $70 to $57, and it looked like it was in serious trouble. On
the value of the U.S. dollar, I'll give you some statistics right now. It's hit an all-time low against the euro. It sank below 99 yen. That's the weakest since 1995. It's plunged below 1 Swiss franc for the first time ever. What, if anything, are you doing about the value of the U.S. dollar, which seems to be falling rather rapidly?
Wolf, you've heard me before. I believe very strongly that a strong dollar is in our nation's interest. We have a strong dollar policy. I make the points repeatedly that every economy goes through some ups and downs. We're going through a tough patch right now in our economy. Our long-term funds,
which are obviously a disaster.
Well, to step back, I have great confidence in our capital markets and in our financial institutions. Our financial institutions, banks and investment banks are strong. Our capital markets are resilient.
If you wouldn't have bailed out Bear Stearns, would there have been a problem with Goldman Sachs, your former company, or J.P. Morgan, or some of the other huge investment houses?
I will repeat what I said. Our financial institutions are strong. Our investment banks are strong. Our banks are strong. They're going to be strong for many years.
Overall, looking at our banking system, could you say today here in the Senate that you believe, as Chairman of the Federal Reserve, that our banking system is stable and capitally strong?
Our banking system is well capitalized. It came in with strong capital. We are watching the situation very carefully. My concerns have turned less on the solvency of these institutions and more on their ability to extend the credit that our economy needs to keep growing, because in many cases banks are deleveraging or shrinking or reluctant to raise the extra capital needed to take advantage of business opportunities. So that's more my concern than solvency concerns.
Let's briefly.
I mean, we've heard figures of 150 banks potentially going down because I assume of this adjustment that you're just kind of talking about. Do you guys have any projections on what kind of impact banking institutions going down, how many there potentially could be in the next year, or do you not want to comment on that?
I think I would just refer you to Chairman Baer's list and discussion from last couple of days. We don't have a projection.
How many are on that list?
About 95, as I recall.
Okay.
As I said, I think the banking system came into this episode with good capital basis and with strong earnings.
Okay, thank you, Mr. Chairman. Appreciate that. Thank you.
Your estimate is based upon not just their balance sheet, but their off-balance sheet arrangements. I understand there are new accounting rules that will shortly be enacted that will require much more recognition of off-balance sheet activities. Have you looked at the fully diluted value of the balance sheets, and you still make that assessment?
I don't think we've done a full assessment. I think that those rules are yet to be clarified, and I think it may well be some time before they are enacted. At such time, we'll obviously think hard about how it affects those ratios.
Well, you've heard me answer it, and if you've got a better idea, I'd like to hear it. I think our idea is that by having the government provide a unspecified backstop, the odds are very low that it will be used and the cost to the taxpayers will be minimized.
Well, you know, there are a lot of us who would like to believe what you're saying, but we're a little skeptical because every time we propose and do something, it always gets used. And you want an unlimited amount used. And none of us at this table like that idea, or some of us at this table don't like that idea of an unlimited sum of federal dollars being backstopping two GSEs, which are already assumed to be backstopped by the federal government to start with. They're price stock and their equity. And do you think that we can believe exactly what you're saying, Secretary Paulson?
I can tell you what you can believe. You can believe I believe everything I say, and that I've been around markets for a long time, and that
So have I.
I share your frustration that on not getting GSE reform legislation done. I share your frustration with certain parts of it. Again, all I can say to you is what I've said earlier, that
where will the money come from, if in fact, where will the money come from if in fact we have to use the backstop?
As I said to you, that it is my very strong belief that the way we can minimize the cost to the taxpayer, the way to minimize that cost
is not
and the likelihood is to be unspecified and enhance the confidence in the market. So that's my answer. It continues to be my answer.
But it doesn't answer the question.
Well,
where is the money going to come from if you have to put it up?
Well, obviously it'll come from the government, but I would say this.
Who is the government?
The taxpayer. And what I'm looking to do is the same thing you are, Senator, to minimize the cost to that taxpayer. And I think the surest way to do that is...
Secretary Paulson, I know you're very sincere in your proposal.
Yeah.
But come January, you will be gone.
Right.
And the rest of us will be sitting at these tables, or at least most of us,
yeah.
And we have to be responsible to the taxpayer for what we have done. And I don't think this is a responsible...
Then, Senator, you will vote against it and all your wisdom.
I do everything I can to stop it.
And maybe...
I want to go back to what Senator Hagel said, though, about accountability, and accountability of the people who run the GSEs. Because right now, what we've seen from my perspective is housing downturn, the banks start doing all sorts of funky stuff, going belly up and that kind of thing. And then you've got the GSEs who are supposed to be a backstop to them, if I see the picture correctly, and they're in as bad a shape as, or worse, than some of the banks that they're supposed to be the backstop for. How did this happen?
And first of all, I do not buy into the proposition that these institutions aren't viable, that these institutions are playing a very major role right now in the economy. Now, in terms of what's happened, I tried to address that earlier in a couple of other questions, and in many ways you'd be better off asking the CEOs directly. But from my perspective, you have large entities, a single line of business, home finance. You have an event where a major downturn in home prices. So it shouldn't be surprising to anybody that they'd have some issues to work through. And they've been working through those issues. They've been playing a very important role in our housing market.